Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world. He was among us in every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us soul. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find, a place called home, where everyone
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear at 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
I gotta learn that and shh move.
It's all about where the camera is and where you're looking.
It's like a new dance move. Everybody's doing it.
Especially on Thursday.
Yeah.
As long as they're doing it for the IT and doing it for the music, that's the important thing.
Oh, and it's been a quick week this week. Some interesting stuff going on in the music news. We're actually going to start tonight with some of that. A lot of people getting up in arms about this disclaimer in the Spotify clause about training AI with SoundCloud music or Spotify music. And the clause has actually been in there for a while. But it's just gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of weeks, and artists are demanding, some answers because they've been dancing around the whole thing for over a year and a half, saying that we're working on it, we're gonna set up contingencies, people can opt out, and nothing's changed. So people are getting a little impatient about that. They're worried that like their music's going to start training AI, and next thing you know, AI music's going to start sounding like them.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is any music that's out there, depending on the model, depending on where it's trained, it could be being trained on all that. And you could get, bands that sound unique, but sound like Led Zeppelin or sound like the Stones. You could tell it to make new music that is in that style and just have it happen. And, we're getting to that point where, it can be almost that easy.
Yeah, and because there's AI trying to detect the copyrights and everything, the algorithm's changing, and it's not just about like, oh, you're using the same chords, or oh, you're using a sample. Now it's starting to become like the AI's starting to have preferences towards, oh, you sound too much like this artist.
Right. Well, let's say, it also depends on the usage, right? Like if I'm just sitting at home and I want, background music, and I just say, hey, play me something like Stevie Ray Vaughan, it doesn't have to be Stevie Ray. If it sounds like Stevie Ray, I'd be happy with that, so it doesn't, that's the whole thing, is like, they don't want it to just be able to do that. And technically it's kind of hard to stop it from being able to do that, because that's where we are.
And I think where the big concern is with the like vocal synthesizers and the sampling of singers' voices.
They've gotten really good. Yeah.
Then using those singers' voices on your own material, and this is where it really starts to become a gray area.
And again, that's where the usage is what matters. If you're trying to, sell something and have it, represent it as your own, it should be all your own. And if there is something that is generated or what have you in there, it has to be, disclaimer needs to be put out there and all that. But there's also certain of the sites that you wouldn't be able to use it because the site already claims it right in the fine print that you can't monetize something with their content. So you have to be careful of which platforms or which tools you're using.
Well, and that's another discussion that's going on when it comes to the Spotifys and the Soundclouds. They say that they're not going to allow AI music to be monetized, but yet they are. And now they're kind of changing their opinion on it, and it's looking like they're happy to allow AI music because for them, it's just more business. They don't care. Like, they don't care whether they're paying a human or a machine that a human used, as long as they keep filling, their playlists.
Yeah, it's true. And again, that's one of the reasons it's going to be hard to stop because, there's demand and there's supply, and it's not technically demanding at this point is the thing.
Yeah. And after we look at that, here, let's switch over to the IT cave. And we'll take a look at what we've got lined up, because for the most part, tonight is going to be about artist representation. And we're going to start with this story just because it's making so much news, in the music world. But the rest of the evening, we're going to look at, how do you get representation? What is representation? What's the difference between a manager, booking agent, PR, promotion, marketing, all these things that serious artists have to take serious?
Yep, absolutely.
So,
and it's not like, if you don't have any music monetized yet, you don't have to dive in and have a publicist and a marketer and everything right off the bat. But it's important to understand the path to where you're trying to get to. And, there are steps along the way. So, hit those milestones on your way there.
Yeah. And as we go through the different types of roles, there are going to be some discussions about doing it yourself and the benefits and disadvantages to that. So, the first video is going to be coming from Weaver Beats. This is the one that me and Ange were looking at throughout the week, and this is what got me searching to see the different opinions out there. And Weaver Beats is going to tell us about the SoundCloud situation, and he thinks it is dangerous. It is something that needs to be addressed. I also had a Miss Crystal video on this one because she is again on the forefront of fighting this. Yep. But this one gives a better explanation of it, and Miss Crystal gets a good one at the end, which fits more with our representation theme tonight.
Sounds good.
So after we take a look at what's going on over there at SoundCloud, the artist guides. This channel, you want to talk about a resource for, up and coming artists who are wondering, what do I need to get to be a big artist? This is a great resource for information on that. For this one, he's going to talk about what does a music artist manager do, which I think we talk to so many musicians, and every once in a while you get that one who's like, I want a manager. Yep. I want to elevate my career more, and getting a manager should help me. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times they have these misconceptions about what the manager brings to the table and
what they do and do not do.
Yeah, these first two videos kind of get into the differences between what a manager's supposed to do and what artists think they're supposed to do. He's gonna talk about what they do, and then Damian Keys, he's a channel that we've looked at for a couple of different business and industry advice, and he's gonna go more into how to get a manager. And I like his views on it because he was asked by an artist, like, will you manage me? And for him, he's like, and I understand his feelings there because I've been asked that at different times in my life too. And much as I could see it, I could see myself doing good in an artist management position. I don't know if it's something that like I'd find fulfilling as an artist myself.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I think that's the problem that Damien had too. He's like, I want to rock.
Yep. And again, a lot of times the manager has kind of a catch-all duty. Like, you know, the reason that bands think that managers do all these different things is because in a lot of cases there are managers who do all these different kinds of things for different bands. But it depends on the individual is what it comes down to. Not everybody has the time to do all of the booking and chasing things down and getting the dry cleaning and doing whatever. Like there may be all different kinds of things that need to be done before the gig that, you know, the manager can take off of the shoulders of the band and let the band just worry about getting their gear and getting it to the gig. And, you know, the management hooks up the sound guys. The management gets, you know, like I said, you know, has the venue all squared away. They understand where everyone's going to be. They understand, you know.
And that's where you start to talk about different roles. The reason why I wanted to include these other ones was to kind of, because you will get those situations where the manager does everything. And, you know, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's better to have like one good person taking care of all these important roles. But if you don't have that versatile manager who can do all of that, then you're shortchanging yourself on some of these tasks.
And some management is also more hands off, and they're more like a booking agent, where they're just really, they have all the contacts with all of the venues, and they can get you booked in the places that if you just walked in the door, they would not book you. But they work through people like this. You know, this manager has contacts there, let's say, and is able to get, you know, the band booked there. So a manager like that could just be like, okay, so you're booked at this place on the 12th, and, you know, whatever, or, you know, it has to be a negotiation, of course, because, you know, the band members have to be available, of course.
See, and Glenn must have been peeking at our playlist because that's exactly where we go after. Charles Klein talks about how to get a booking agent, and it comes from a musician's perspective. I had a couple of choices for explaining what a booking agent is, but I like this one because it comes from the musician's perspective. And he actually put this video together, you know, quite a few years back when he was just starting out. So it's interesting to see his perspective of it at that time in his musical career, and then looking how he's evolved since. It helps to fill in the gap of what a manager isn't necessarily doing, which is getting you your bookings.
Right.
A manager works in conjunction with a booking agent to make sure everything's aligned.
And with a lot of bands, I mean, if it's a band that's only they're doing bar gigs or smaller places, and they're not really making a lot of money, you know, each of these people that we're talking about, the manager, the booking agent, like everyone, you know, normally would be getting their cut. So the band's cut's getting smaller and smaller as you have, you know, more people doing more things. But as places get bigger, or as you start getting invited to bigger places, then, you know, you start to expand the operation, you know, as you need to.
Yep. And what the band's willing to do.
Yeah.
So from there, Master Music Marketing gets into the PR side. And, you know, again, this is not always a manager's role. A manager may play a part in public relations, but as you get bigger as an artist, this starts to become something that takes a team to really do properly. And another Freshie channel here, chock full of good information. He's another one that, like, every video is about your career.
Focused in.
Yep, and he's going to show us how to find a good publicist. And this one's a nice complement to all the other ones because, like I said, there's this you can do it yourself and do everything, or you can hand it over. And there's this matter of trust there, because when you do decide, like, oh, I'm going to go with a manager or I'm going to go with an agency, you've got to trust them. And she does a real good job of drilling that in, that if you don't trust who you're going with, sometimes it is better to go on your own. But she also gives the good points of what the benefits are of when you do find someone that you trust to handle this.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you look at it in the past, I mean, there's all kinds of horror stories about people and their management screwing them over, even when the management is family sometimes. So, I mean, it's when it comes to trust, it's, you're dealing, when you get to, dealing with larger sums of money, it does become more of an issue where, some people are more tempted and would be more easily swayed to, do something like that.
And when you do commit in some of these cases to these bigger controllers of your career, you do give up a little bit of your individuality. You give up a little bit of your artistic control, and sometimes you might be doing something you don't necessarily feel is what represents you. She talks about that.
Yeah, because you'll have a public brand at that point that you need to be aware of. And if you're acting in public in a way that is counter to your brand, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. They should be representing you. And from the first video with the artist manager, that's kind of the theme. Like, he starts off with that, like, they work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's going to be coming from Marianne Violin. And then to finish it off, Miss Crystal, she almost got a double play because her Spotify information complements what we're going to, or SoundCloud information complements what we're going to start with. Right. But with this, after we look at all these different roles, the top level of representation gets into record contracts, record companies, and nowadays you've got more options, and distribution is one of them. Whether you want that record deal or you want a company that helps you with the distribution is something every artist should know about, should consider, which is what they really are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to get into the cons on both sides, because there are some con men on both sides of this, and she's good at pointing them out.
Yeah. Very cool. Always good to hear from Miss Crystal.
Oh, I literally am like checking that channel every day, because there's so much going on right now, and nobody
at such a pace. Yeah.
Nobody covers it like her, and she mentions, like, she does this to for the betterment of the industry, and she really is.
Yep. And it's also documenting, cataloging what's happening when, and if we go to look back at it a year from now, you could literally go through her channel, like you say, and see when important changes are happening, and she really homes in on the important details of these things that are happening.
Yeah. Her law firm is so lucky that they have a lawyer like this who can get out there to the masses, inform them. Doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, she covers so much in small chunks, and it's all important industry information.
Yep.
So to get back to this SoundCloud situation, because this one is not fixing itself. SoundCloud is been saying for a year and a half now that they're going to do something about this, because many artists have been complaining. They just started really picking up on that clause in the last couple of months, and now they're asking SoundCloud, are you training AI with these songs? And SoundCloud's denying it, saying no, so you kind of have to take them at their word. There's no real way to prove it unless you can find a chain of training to show that like the influence on the AI is coming from this material over on SoundCloud.
And so much that's going on with AI is technically just black box, where we're not even sure what's going on inside the decision model. But that's where that would be hard to track down for something like that.
Yeah. The AI companies are really going to have to become more transparent. I understand the need to be proprietary and we can't give away all our secrets of how we make our magic, but at the same time, you need to be able to have outside eyes looking in at the code.
In this case, sometimes the code won't even tell you the answer, though, because that's what I'm saying. Is like sometimes it's a bit of a black box. Not that they won't let us see, but like they don't know what's going on inside the box. Like they know what they feed it and they know what comes out, but how it comes to figure out what to do there, like it doesn't always follow in such a way that you can figure out exactly what came in and what came out to make that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the concern that a lot of these artists and people like Miss Crystal have, is that like these programmers aren't even in control anymore of what they're building.
Well, the other thing is how many, like we've talked about the fact that simple AI models are available that can be trained on your machine at home. Just any machine that we have, around, we can do AI on, and we could train it with whatever. And we have access to music. So it comes down to really like, how do you stop it from, like, I get where they probably were saying when AI was just getting started up, or even if you just look back a year and a half, AI was in a very different place than it is right now. So back then they were saying, oh no, we're not going to use your music to train the AI. But then they might have realized, like, how do we even stop, the AIs from being trained with music that's just out there? Because
and I think initially some of them were saying that, like, we're not going to use it for this. They've changed gears over the last couple of years. They've changed their opinions on it. Some of them now feel like there's a benefit to doing this. So
it comes down to the usage again, is the thing. It could be used for good, it could be used for bad, it could be used in accordance with terms of service, it could be used to skirt terms of service. There's multiple ways that these things can come out. So
yeah, and I think at this point, the artists who are making the noise, they just want to know that there's an option to opt out of that, but
is there?
Well, that's just it. At the moment, no. SoundCloud says that they're going to, but they haven't yet. So this is not something they can sit on for a long period of time, because it's only going to take a little bit of time for it to screw things up.
Yeah.
So let's see what this situation is, so everybody gets familiar with what they're talking about. And believe me, they are talking about it all over YouTube. The last couple of weeks, this has made a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of Damn, they're trying to stick AI in everything. You know where they're going to stick it next. Today we're going to be talking about how SoundCloud... For those of you that recently suffered from a concussion, SoundCloud is a music platform, and they've been around for quite some time. I personally got my start on SoundCloud before doing YouTube. It recently came to people's attention that SoundCloud had changed their terms of service back in February, but one thing in particular stood out to people. I'm not sure who originally discovered this, so it all looks pretty normal here. By uploading your content to the platform, you also grant a limited, worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, fully paid-up license to other users of the platform, yada yada. The part that concerned people was you explicitly agree that your content may be used to inform, train, develop, or serve as input to artificial intelligence or machine intelligence technologies or services as part of or for providing the services. So yeah, that sounds pretty bad. And for those of you who don't know, some other streaming platforms have been doing this too. Generally, it's been happening with the distributors though, not as much with Spotify, at least that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong though. I haven't been keeping up to date with the Spotify news as much as I used to. So that sounds pretty bad on its face, and it had a lot of people concerned. Let's just say SoundCloud got soft canceled. Now, obviously the first thing people were thinking of here is, oh my God, they're training it in order to make AI generated music on SoundCloud, which that would be really bad. That would be really bad. Unlike SoundCloud, they actually responded pretty quickly to this. SoundCloud has always been and will remain artists first. We don't use artist content to trade AI. We don't allow scraping. We've even added a no AI tag to block unauthorized use. Any future AI tools will be built for artists to enhance discovery, protect rights, and expand opportunities. We hear your concerns and remain committed to transparency, artist control, and fair use. Now, not the best response, I would say, because they didn't really clarify very well. I mean, they even say here, we don't use artist content to train AI. Then the terms of service say your content may be used to inform, train, develop, or serve as input to artificial intelligence. Yeah, pretty contradictory there. They did clarify even further in response to me. They stated here, to clarify, we don't train AI on your music, we don't let third parties scrape it, and we've built tools to help keep it that way. Empowering artists has always been and will continue to be our first priority. This update to our TOS covers personalized recommendations, content organization, fraud detection, and improvements to content identification with the help of AI technologies on SoundCloud's own platform. I don't know, it's looking a little weird here because we got even more. So they are including 6 new AI-powered partner integrations designed for everyone. Okay, and these are the 6 tools here. Toonie enables remixing, editing, and new track generation. Yeah, this is from an article from them in 2024. Tutti, kind of a shit name there. That's even worse than Toonie. A simplified AI-driven remixing platform for licensed music. AI Beats with a Z. Generate and customize your own beats like a pro. Do I even need to say anything really? Two-Shot, collaborative AI tools for creating custom samples. Starmony. I mean, they gotta be AI generating these names. This is fucking awful. Starmony. Tootie. AI Beats with a Z. Tailored for singers and rappers supporting fan music creation. Ace Studio generates singing vocals from MIDI and lyrics with studio quality AI voices. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not looking good. Maybe this was something they scrapped. I don't really know what to believe because basically the terms of service are a lot more powerful than a response to a tweet. And this comes from their press.soundcloud.com newsroom article page. They also stated they are joining AI for Music's principle for music creation with AI, pledging to uphold ethical and transparent AI practices. I didn't know this, but they already have several AI integrations, including Fader, Soundful, and Voice Swap. I mean, I can't really guess what that last one does. So I don't know, man. It's not looking good. While their response did seem like it's not supposed to be used for generative AI, I don't think they stated that it was going to be used to train this specifically here. So that is the main connecting piece that's missing currently. I don't know, man. It's not a good look, though, when they are in the terms of service saying you are consenting to using your music to train their AI. Then they're also releasing these AI tools, some of them which are generative. So what do you guys think? Are people freaking out about nothing? Is this actually alarming? Are you guys going to use 2D and AI Beats with a Z? This has people freaking out though. Like it seems like, because people are talking about removing their music off of SoundCloud because they don't want to train it. It may be too late already though if that is the case. People are also asking like, even if I don't consent to this, are they going to go train my old music? Is it only music going forward? There's a lot of things here. People are also suggesting, spamming the platform with shit. That way, you're ruining the AI essentially. Maybe like go on the platform and spam something about, Timbaland never had hits or something like that. That way when he uses UDO, maybe it'll come back around to him. I don't know, guys. SoundCloud seems like they're kind of fucking up right now, though. It's not a good look. I don't know, man. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to stay up to date, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to support the content, what I do here, consider joining my Patreon or becoming a channel member, or check out my second channel. All great ways to support the content. You get access to exclusive content, outtakes, and other goodies.
And that's at Weaver Beats over on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Generative AI, huh?
Now I'm looking at it.
There you go.
I need the whoosh sound. But I didn't realize of those ones he mentioned, Ace Studio is the one that does like vocals and you can kind of program them in. We've seen examples of that, and that one is definitely one that gets used. Wasn't aware that it was part of the SoundCloud umbrella. If these AI engines are in bed with some of these music platforms, there's no stopping them from doing this on their own tools. They might not give out their material to other AI engines, but it looks like they're going to use them for their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, we're in an interesting place when it comes to AI and music, because AI can generate music, and it can be very similar to things, whether you want it to be or whether it's just because it was trained on it, or it could be accidentally similar to something that you like. Who knows?
And when they say that we don't allow scraping,
right, like that I get. Like, you don't want somebody to come in and just take all the music all at once, but your song, somebody could be listening to your song, and they can't stop that.
Yeah. How do they prevent scraping? Because good scrapers look like they're human. They do inhale tons of content, but they do it the same way that humans do. So how do you prevent it? As a programmer, I know that it's damn near impossible to make a scrape-proof page.
Yeah. And again, that's what makes it, it's like other things. It's an arms race, right? Like they find out that there are people using scrapers, so they try to come up with a better way to block it. And then they're going to find a better way to do scrapers. And then, they're going to find just a totally different method where, now they're just going to have, AI agents out there that are, coming in from everybody else's machines, like a bot farm, and just, pulling everything all at once from all over and then putting it in one place.
Yeah.
Knows?
The truth is, where there's a will, there will always be a programmer who finds a way. And Google is a scraper. So what are they going to prevent Google from accessing their page? That defeats the
I have a page,
page out there. So it's going to be interesting how they really deal with this. And right now, I get the impression they don't want to fix it. It's not that they don't want to deal with it. They want the music. They want more material on their site. They don't care whether it comes from a human or a machine.
It could also be something where, again, this sounded like it was kind of a quiet change that they made in February to the terms of service. So anything that's been, anyone who's agreed to the terms since February, has already agreed to this. But even if they weren't planning on actively using the AI stuff now, this is kind of preemptively giving them permission to go back and use anything since February. Anybody who signed that new terms of service and didn't opt out, if there was an opt out, or, the tag for no AI or what have you, all that stuff since then is probably already in because they already opted in. And it's a question of what is going to be done either through legislation, if that's a different thing, or if it's going to be done, there's only so many different avenues that can be looked at.
Can it be done through legislation? If the programmers and the people in the company can't do it themselves, how's legislation going to force them to?
Yeah. That's the question. I mean, again, this is all new territory. It's the Wild West when it comes to AI. So that's why they've come, and again, when it comes to things like this emergent technology, it is difficult to have legislation on it because the legislators are not going to be experts in this. They would need to have experts come in who they could rely upon the information that they're given and to understand it. That's the other thing.
That's why every once in a while, like Miss Crystal or Rick Beato end up in front of Congress trying to explain it to them. Yeah,
exactly.
And I wish I could have got Miss Crystal's counter to this, because she did a text comparison of the agreements as they changed, and there wasn't a lot of change. That change in February wasn't a drastic new disclaimer. It was a tiny little addition.
And again, it's a tiny little addition that could make a big difference when they start looking at, because they may have been training AI since February and it's all fine because everybody who was in there since then has already opted in.
Yeah. Looking for details on this as I was hunting through it, I found tons of people's artists' opinions, channels' opinions about it. A lot of SoundCloud and Spotify slamming. That's kind of why I avoided those. But there are a few channels out there who, like at Weaver Beats, who are actually putting the details, giving the actual details of what's going on. You know, they give their opinion, but they keep it to the facts. And surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of these channels actually giving the facts, just a lot of uproar.
Yeah. Well, one question I have is, if you had, like, let's say you had access to all the music that there is and could train an AI with all that music, and then you could talk to them, you know, and you could have the AI basically project forward. They look at the popular music of the last 6 months or a year or whatever, and project forward where is each genre heading, you know, as far as, and see what it thinks as far as that goes. It's good at extrapolating, you know, trends in data.
And I'm cool with using AI to get analytics and figure out, like, hey, what's hot, what's trending, all of that.
Yeah.
But if that AI is also making the music and it's using that analytics to determine now's a good time to come out with a country song because country's hot right now.
Is that a problem, or is that just, you know, giving somebody inspiration? You know, that's the other side of it.
If it tells a human, hey, go make a country song, awesome. If it makes the country song and then the human's like, why should I even bother? Because
that's where we get a problem.
Listen to how good the AI made this. This is where like the rubber is going to meet the road at some point.
A lot of people will be instrumental purists, as far as, you know, there's a song that an AI makes. Maybe you love every little thing about the song that the AI makes. You just want to remake it yourself. So you just redo all the parts with real instruments, and all of a sudden it's a real song that was, you know, there would be no way to tell it was made by AI as far as the tools that they would use to analyze a song like that would go.
And when I see artists like Jason who get inspiration from my AI ideas, but then goes and makes his own song, I'm not against AI in those cases. I think it's a good thing. It helps to foster some ideas. He doesn't use it to write the song.
Right. It's like using the old, like an old song starter type of thing, where you just, you know, hit a randomize button, and it gives you, you know, it gives you a beat, it gives you a bass line, it gives you some chords, but it doesn't, you know, it's not anything specific, and it is just a loop. And you just, you know, like you said, it's inspiration. Like, you hit that one, it's like, nah, that's too fast. You know, that one, that's too slow. And then boom, oh, I like that one. And then something starts to click, and you just start to groove with whatever's there, and it becomes a whole thing on its own.
Yeah, it's a lot like the dice, you know, challenge. Like, I'm going to roll these dice. I'm going to play this chord, this chord, this chord.
Exactly. That's one of my favorites.
This is the BPM.
Yep, exactly. Always a good thing.
So that's the current situation when it comes to what's going on with AI, what's going on with the sound platforms. If you're using these platforms, be aware of this. It's probably not going to get resolved anytime soon, but protect yourself, protect your music. Matter of fact, everything we're going to talk about for the rest of the night is all about either you do it or you get a manager. And that's what we're going to start with here. The artist guides. I almost use just their videos tonight. I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll have a first time where, like, the only other time we did that was with Scott's Bass, you know, where like the whole night was just centered around one killer resource. And this channel is chock full of everything about the industry, representation, everything we're going to talk about tonight. There's videos about it, and they're concise. You're getting advice from actual managers. You're from an agency that handles all these different types of things. This is at the Artist Guides over on YouTube, and they got a website to go with it, theartistguides.net. That's where you can really get some resource. Get in touch with them if you need to. Everything you're ever going to wonder about when it comes to legality, sync licensing, getting paid, booking, everything is in these videos. and their booking video, I ended up using a different channel's booking video because I like the perspective from the musician, but that's just as worth checking as this one when it comes to understanding the roles of that particular job.
Right.
But here he does a great job of just explaining what does a music artist manager do? What should you expect when you do take that big step and get a manager?
Right.
And throughout the evening, you're going to hear the trust word a lot.
For good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, how's it going? In this video, we're going to be discussing artist management. So if you're an artist seeking a manager, or if you want to be a manager, then we're going to have a look at the overview of the artist manager's role, what the relationship is all about, and ultimately what makes a good manager. So let's start with what the manager's relationship is to the artist. So how does the manager fit in to the artist's professional world? So essentially, when an artist asks somebody to manage them, what they're doing is they're appointing somebody to run their business for them. So in business terms, I guess you could equate this to appointing a CEO or managing director to run a business where the artist is still ultimately the owner of the business. In fact, the artist is the business itself. So the manager does not become the boss of the artist. The artist is the one employing the manager. And the only reason to have a manager is because the idea is that they should be able to deliver a greater level of success for the artist than the artist could achieve on their own. So the artist and the manager become a close working team, a type of partnership. And for this relationship to be successful, at the heart of it, there has to be a shared vision and agreed set of objectives. The manager should be helping the artist to reach their full potential. So it's really important that they understand the vision, both artistically and commercially, and help the artist articulate these if they don't already know them. And then once the manager has this, they then develop and lead on a strategy to achieve this. So the manager is going to need to make decisions and represent the artist on this basis. For this to be effective, the artist is going to have to trust the manager to be able to operate on their behalf. And in return, the manager needs to operate with integrity and honesty and always in the best interest of the artist to achieve the long-term career goals and objectives that you have agreed upon. And if a manager is not working in the best interest of the artist, then that can result in something contrary to what the artist may want, or it could even go against the best interest of the artist's long-term career. I guess a really clear example of this could be where, say, an artist manager pursues a record label agreement purely because it brings in the greatest short-term financial success, whereas actually it may be better that the artist didn't get involved in that and had a more strategic long-term approach and retained some control of what they were doing. So it's really important that the manager must always act in the artist's best interest. So now we know the basis of the artist-manager relationship. Let's have a look at what the actual role entails. So without a doubt, an artist manager needs to have the knowledge and the skills and the networking required to achieve success. But beyond that, there is no one single job description that explains exactly what it is that an artist manager will do. And the reason for this is because all artists have different skills and talents. There are different genres that need different strategies and have different needs. The artist can be at different stages of their career. There's so many different variables that there is no one list of what a manager needs to do. But what must happen is that the manager needs to be across all functions of everything that is going on in an artist's career and the running of their business. So essentially, the manager needs to ensure lots of things, such as the music actually gets made and released and distributed, promoted and marketed, that live performance and gigs and touring is taking place, that all the royalties and fees are collected in properly, and that the artist's finances and legal protections are in place, and that all other ongoing opportunities are constantly being pursued. For all these things to happen, the manager may very well have to do much of this themselves, especially in the early stages of an artist's career and development. So the artist should be contributing and assisting across all of these things that I've mentioned, and they should certainly be aware of everything that is going on around them. Now, to build and develop the artist's career, a manager needs to seek and maintain and manage relationships with third parties within the music industry itself, such as publishers, promoters, labels, booking agents, and so on. So what the manager is essentially doing is they are building a wider team around the artist and then managing this team on the artist's behalf. Now, some of these relationships may last for a few years or even the artist's entire career, and some of them may come and go a little bit, but at the hub of it all is the artist manager themselves, who's making sure everything's running smoothly and successfully and that everything is happening in line with the agreed strategy and the overall vision and objectives of the artist. The manager should also be ensuring that all the general functions of a business are being taken care of, either by themselves or by other professionals such as accountants or lawyers and so on. So no two managers' roles are ever really exactly the same, and all managers have different approaches and even different strategies of how they're going to achieve the success. But a manager should be there to help you develop as an artist, to pursue and deliver opportunities for you, to network and build a team, to market, promote and champion you in every way that they can, to negotiate contracts for you in your own best interest, to organise and run your business for you, and to advise and guide your career. So now we know what the basis for the relationship is and what the role mainly involves, let's look at what makes a good manager. So certainly you want a manager who's operating in your best interests, not just commercially, but in terms of your well-being as well. And you want someone that you can share the adventure of the journey as you're trying to achieve success together, that you can work as a team. So you want a manager who is trustworthy and cares about your vision and objectives. So your manager must understand what it is that you want and have a strategy to get you there. And because you are allowing them to run your business for you, they need to communicate with you regularly, transparently, and keep you fully informed and properly advised. Beyond this, you need to consider the specific skills that the manager may have. So they may be well connected to a big network of people within the industry. They may have managed lots of artists before and have loads of experience. Or perhaps they're really skilled at marketing and promoting. Or they have tour management skills or legal and financial skills. Or perhaps they're really attuned to your genre and the particular needs of you as an artist. They may be very strong negotiators or have great people management skills, or perhaps they're great salespeople with really high levels of interpersonal skills. Generally speaking, you're going to want a kind of a mixture of all of these kinds of things. It's a very wide-ranging role. One other thing to think about is the level of attention that you may get or want from an artist manager. So some managers may have multiple acts, and you as an artist are not necessarily the most important one. Other managers may only have one or two artists, and you as the artist could be really important to them. The flip side to this is, do you want an artist manager who is really experienced but you're not so significant to them? Or would you want an artist manager who is less experienced but you are really important to them? So lots of managers have different skills and have different backgrounds, and all of these kinds of things you're going to need to weigh up as to what you think is best for you and for where you are in your career. Now, most of what we've covered so far is kind of really focused on this from an artist's perspective. I think it'd be useful to look at it from a manager's perspective as well. I think that probably helps to create a better working relationship. So I've previously mentioned with regards to the actual overall relationship that it is the artist who is employing the manager. But this can be a slight oversimplification because ultimately the manager tends to work on commission only. That's the usual scenario. So in this circumstance, especially where there may be some development involved or you're looking at the future potential of what may come in, a manager is often working for free or for very little money to begin with at the early stages of the relationship. So the artist needs to understand that the manager is putting faith in their talent and into their creative ability, and that they also want to see that the artist is capable of contributing to the overall success and that there is motivation and drive to make this happen. So yes, the artist is putting lots of faith and trust into the manager, but the manager is also putting some faith and trust into the artist. It's a very unique working relationship of mutual benefit. So when it comes to actually choosing a manager from an artist perspective, there's lots to consider there, and some of it may seem a bit daunting or even a bit worrying about whether you end up making a mistake and are you stuck in a relationship that you don't want to be in, and so on. But you must always use your best judgment through your career and choose to work with people who you trust and believe to be on your side. So let's say that you think you've found a manager that you want to work with. How do you know that you're going to work well together and that there is that potential for success? We work in artist management, and sometimes it can take quite a while, sometimes many months, before your working relationship has established itself so that you're fully aligned and you become a high functioning team, because that's what your goal should be. So I would say it's preferable to spend a few months at least working with your manager before jumping straight into a long-term contract. This also gives a little bit of time to establish your vision and set out your overall strategy and even see some of your initial objectives starting to be delivered. I hope that's been helpful. Best of luck out there to you and your manager. My name's Sean. Thanks for checking out.
Damn, Sean, that is some great advice. Solid.
Indeed.
I love how he started it off comparing it, to a business, and a manager is kind of like that CEO, that one that you want to make sure can micromanage in some cases, or like he mentioned, at least has an understanding or their feet wet in all the different moving parts of building up an artist's career.
And again, different artists will have different needs. Some have already built themselves up somewhat and only need that little extra push, or certain connections to get gigs or what have you. So there are different different levels of need that people will have for management as well.
Yeah,
you need to find a good fit.
Like he mentioned, you have two different kinds of manager situations here. You could have that manager who is solely focused on you, and sometimes that is the case, like Elvis's manager.
Mm-hmm.
Only managed him, didn't need to manage anybody else. Sometimes you will get that manager who's just so committed to the artist that is their objective. And then sometimes you're dealing more with like an agency. You see this more like with actors and things. Where
I was thinking Jerry Maguire for sports.
Yeah. Like, and in sports and in movies and these fields, you're kind of better off with the big agencies. They have a team of charismatic people to go do all the things necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And some people just like to have the guy, like they want Steve or whoever to be the guy that's there, all the time. So, they want to be able to, when they see him, they're like, okay, I know we're good because he's there.
Yeah. And if you really are trying to make it big and get that record contract or that like big gig in the stadium, the manager with the connections, the manager who might be managing lots of different people and knows lots of people, is charismatic, is able to do all the things he was talking about for criteria. Like, those skill strengths aren't just like knowledge of this particular part of the industry. So sometimes it is being friendly and charismatic that gets you in the door.
Yep. Certain personality traits, sure.
Yeah, and sometimes the artist is not that. So having a manager who is a good way for an artist not to have to be all these things.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, there are lots of artists out there who would be plenty happy to just kind of look down at their feet and play and, not make eye contact with the crowd even and all of that, so they don't want to have to be the one who's negotiating things and talking to people about booking gigs and all that kind of thing. So they really want someone to speak on their behalf for things like that.
yeah, when he was explaining the importance of getting the CEO to run your business, this allows you to do more, have more time and focus on what you need to do as an artist. Like he said, a good manager makes sure the music gets done. If we've got a record deal and it's got to be done in 3 months, that's part of the manager's job to make sure that, especially if you're not just dealing with one artist, if you are dealing with a whole band, you kind of are the babysitter, the mother hen of the project.
And ideally the muse, like if you're in a situation like that, you've got 3 months to get an album out, like, would it be the manager that would go find a house somewhere to put the band in the house and say, you guys live there until you get that album done, you force them to stick it there.
A good manager would accommodate all that. That is something that a good manager would make sure that, like he said, everything is taken care of for the artist. The manager is working for you, and it is an investment on both sides. I love how he finished it off with that conclusion, reminding you that up and coming artists, sometimes these managers and these agencies, they will take a chance if they see the talent, they see the potential. They know the artist has the drive to sustain it. That's your best chance of getting a good manager or an agency, is by being the artist that they want to invest in.
Yeah, exactly. But, being yourself is also most important. Be genuine. That's always key.
Yeah, if you want to be appealing to them, just keep those things in mind, and you're more likely to have an agency or a manager come to you and say, hey, do you need one, rather than you having to go seek them.
Sure.
And speaking of, that's actually what Damien talks more about. This is a nice complement to everything Sean was talking about there. How to get a manager when you feel like it's time, you're ready, and what are the considerations? What kind of approach are you going to take? You're going to be cold calling and seeking out, or taking the advice from Sean where you might want to look for the right fit for you, one who has that commitment to your artistry, just like you would have to their management of it.
Yep.
And Damien's not new to us.
Nope.
We've been seeking out industry advice from him for a couple of our topics. And at Damien Keys, daily tips for musicians, artists, and bands on how to have a long-term career in the music. And this is all about career building. Everything we're talking about tonight, this is the start of your career when you're talking getting a manager. You don't do that after you make the album.
Yeah. Part of the process.
Yeah. So here Damien's going to talk a little bit about the approach to get a manager, and the better approach is than just trying to cold call and pick anybody who's calling themselves a manager.
Right. And a lot of times it's a friend of the band who has the skills that you're talking about, who just grows into the role of manager sometimes.
Or even scarier, a girlfriend of somebody in the band, in which case, now there's a potential for turmoil. There always is, if there's relationships involved in bands, and if they're part of the representation like this, it's a weak cog in the wheel that can break sometimes very easily. So I don't know if I'd go with my girlfriend as the manager.
Thanks for the tip.
I'd let her talk to the manager, but in the end, I'd listen to the manager's advice first.
Because he's responsible for the company.
Yeah. Let's see what Damien says. Unfortunately, he doesn't talk about the girlfriend situation, but we'll bring that back one night. It'll be a Yoko Ono special.
There you go.
What's up guys, Damien Keys here, welcome back to the channel. So today we are talking about the role of a music manager, including what is it that a music manager will do for you, and how does a music manager get paid, and also the most important bit, which is how do you get yourself a good music manager. Now, there isn't a day that goes past that I don't get asked by some artists whether I want to manage them. Now, I'm not a music manager, but even if I was a music manager, the first thing I think is, why would I want to do that? What is in it for me? Where is your leverage? Before we break this down and we go into all of the details, I want to give you the best piece of advice that I can possibly think of when it comes to music management. Being scalable is much better than being talented, okay? Just bear that in mind as we go through this video. Now, many artists think that when they get a manager, they can just hand over everything and take a nice deep breath, knowing that someone is going to take away all of their problems. And to be honest with you, they're not far from the truth. A good music manager can make the difference between you actually being successful and you not being successful. But it isn't quite as simple as that, because every music manager will have different skills and they will play into those skills to be able to help you. But the most important thing that a music manager will do is building the strategy and helping to implement that strategy to get you to the place that you want to be. So a manager will be looking for opportunities to drive you forward to reach your goal. But it's very difficult to say what a manager would do on a day-to-day basis, because that would depend on you and it would depend on them and their skill set. But let's look at a few examples. Let's take someone like, well, me. Okay, I don't have Lucian Grange on speed dial, but I've got quite a lot of links to industry. I work with some labels, I work with some managers, I work with lots of artists, I know lots of promoters, I know some legals. So therefore, I've got my fingers in enough pies to be able to drive an artist forward. But is that the place that I would start? Absolutely not. My job would be that I want to build the audience and I want to be able to start to monetize that build, because if I can do that, it becomes scalable. Now, the reason why I would utilize this strategy rather than start to pitch you around different labels is because this plays right into my skill set. So with that in mind, the strategy for us would be the songs, building the social media content, building that audience, bringing them value, and then monetizing. Then from that point, we scale. And hopefully at that point, we start bringing some money in. And this is where we talk about how managers get paid. So if I asked you how much a manager would get, you'd probably say, well, I've heard it's 20%. Yes, but it all depends on a number of things. And so a manager would probably traditionally get somewhere between 15 and 20%, although a manager could easily take 50% if they are that powerful and if they have that much leverage. So it's pretty simple. I would get, say, 15% of money that comes in, of your income, which could be anything from ticket sales, it could be merch, it could be CD sales, it could be streaming, it could be an advance, it could be a sync, it could be an endorsement. Anything that comes in, technically, as the manager, I am owed that percentage, let's say 15%. But a manager is like a business partner. So let's say you go and do a massive show and you get paid $100,000. Brilliant. I would get 15 to 20%, $15,000 to $20,000. Yes, except you've got expenses. So therefore, you might have to pay session musicians, you might have to pay the venue, you might have to pay for someone to run the merch stand, yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, your $100,000 might come down to $40,000 profit. Now then, if that $40,000 profit is yours, I would get 20%, in this case 15 to 20% of the 40,000. So in order to build the artist, you might spend a lot of money on a radio tour or studio costs or marketing or legals. All of that gets deducted before the manager would take their split. Which leads us on to the real big question, which is, how do I get a music manager? Well, there's a few parts to this, but you firstly have to think about your leverage, about the supply and demand. There are around about 100,000 tracks being released every single day. How many artists does that make? Hundreds of thousands. How many managers are there? Not very many. A handful. You know, there might be 10,000, 20,000, maybe 30,000, but a tiny fraction of managers than there are artists. They're always going to have their pick of the bunch. There's always going to be that hot talent. There's always going to be an artist that's doing well that needs a manager. So that has to be you. You need to have that leverage. Now, this is where it has to make sense, and this is where you have to be slightly hard on yourself. Is it monetizable? If it isn't monetizable, why would someone come in and give all of their time and their experience and their contacts to build something, then they are not getting something out? So therefore, a good manager probably isn't going to be interested. Then, Are you manageable? And that sounds crazy. You're like, of course I am. I've got great music. No, 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 no. If you're not manageable, if you can't get your ass out of bed, if you can't actually deliver on the things that you say that you're going to do, if you can't do the things that mean you are a successful artist and you aren't manageable, a manager can't help you. And so therefore, some really strong advice is, if the world is full of artists, the world is full of songwriters, great. But what makes you different? What makes you stand out? Why would that manager say, oh, I've not seen this before, this is something interesting, and this is something new? Then you need to build your empire. Now, let me tell you what I mean by this, okay? We are going to build that audience. But why are we building the audience? What are you going to do with that audience? So therefore, it needs to be clear. The artist that you are needs to have a way to be able to bring that money in before we go and get that audience. It's kind of like building a brand and building a store. Once you've got that attention and people say, oh, I want the thing, and then they know how to get the thing, that means you build the audience and you can scale. Not only can you scale the numbers within the audience, but you can now scale the dollar. And that is where a really good manager comes in, because going back to the beginning, being scalable is better than being talented. You could be talented, but I've got nothing. I'm like, right, I have to create everything around you. My job as a manager isn't to create the world around you. My job as a manager is to scale what you're doing, is to make sure that this goes to the masses and make sure that we can actually get a result off the back of it. This is the golden rule. Your job is not to find a manager. Your job is to make yourself manageable. Your job is to make something that works, albeit very small. Now, I would suggest that a good manager will start sniffing around you when you're hitting around about the 50,000 followers on a platform. You know that people are going to start sniffing around and taking you seriously when you're in the tens of thousands. Now, don't forget, when I'm saying, oh, just go and build an audience of 50,000 people, I understand that it isn't as simple as that, but that's what this channel's for. That is what DK Music Business Academy is all about. How are you going to build that audience as quick as possible so that you have proof of concept, so that you can take it to a manager or a live agent or a label? So if you're not sure about those bits, then go and check out DK Music Business Academy. That is where you are going to find more information on how to do this as quick as possible. But I hope that helped, and hopefully this will help you to go and get a manager. Before you go, do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, because it does make a huge difference.
Oh, how many fingers can you get into one pie?
All of them.
11 if it's American pie.
Gotta always have an extra, sure.
Well, you see why we go here for some of the industry advice, because he really solid business advice. I can see why he doesn't want to be a artist manager, because he's more of a content advisor, scalable. I love how he used the term here.
Yeah.
It's about nurturing the artist, growing them, getting that fan base, getting to that 50K, so that like the manager starts sniffing around you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the thing, though, is, you know, if you already have a manager, the manager doesn't want other managers sniffing around.
Well, yeah. Well, in that, again, how many fingers in a pie is too much? If you've got two managers, is a recipe for disaster.
Well, if you were to bring two on board, but of course, you know, the fact that you have a manager and somebody else comes sniffing around as a manager, that is a good indicator. That is an indicator that the first manager is doing a good job of getting your information out there. And, you know, like you said, you know, you're at a level where people are starting to show interest at that point. Yeah.
Well, and you do hear of artists like switching management because this management didn't have our vision, or they've outgrown that manager,
or they had a full-time job and couldn't do the thing, you know, all the time. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons why people couldn't fulfill what was needed for, you know, a manager and management relationship there.
Or it could be Ozzy and you marry her, but she's the daughter of the record exec president, so
and you know, there's I guess we're stretching the term manageable, because if we're talking about Ozzy being manageable, I mean, you know, in terms of what he's talking about, absolutely. But is Ozzy manageable?
and he's a great example to counter to his point that, like, if you aren't manageable, and I mean, granted, if Ozzy can be tamed and managed, then I guess anything is possible.
But it was more about the effort, I think, at that point. It was more saying that, if you're just going to sit back and sit on the couch and be like, well, you were supposed to go write the album and you were supposed to go do this. Like, no, that's not their job. Like, there are things they're supposed to do, but there's things that you have to do that are part of the whole relationship. And that is why it is a partnership, because, you have responsibilities, they have responsibilities, and you both need to keep each other on track and have that same shared vision is the thing.
Yeah. And what you've seen with these two videos talking about management, you see the incentivized payment approach. A manager only benefits and profits if they can get you to profit.
And the whole expenses coming out first. That's just, it makes sense. And it's something that would just, that would be the way I would do it anyway. But just, it is something that's important to recognize that there can be, hefty expenses when it comes to something like that, whether it's renting a truck to haul equipment or whatever. There's just all kinds of things that you might not consider that you needed.
And like you mentioned, like, the band's going to get paid less. But the way he explained it, like, these kinds of expenses, they get deducted before the calculation of profit. So, yes, everybody makes less, but first you got to pay the bills before you pay the workers.
Yep. And if it was, say, 20%, and if you were a 4-piece band, then basically the manager they're basically the 5th member of the band at that point, which would make sense.
Fifth Beatle.
The 5th Beatle, right? So like then, all the money that had to be spent to get the thing done all comes out, and then whatever's left gets split the 5 ways, and everybody has their own, their own thing going on.
Yeah, and every once in a while I run across like a musician with the attitude like, I'm not splitting my profits with anybody.
That's one reason why people want to do it all themselves, and that's the kind of person who doesn't need a manager or isn't looking for a manager. They just want to be able to do it all themselves. So they'll watch videos and they'll try to get their foot in the door, but they'll have a harder time of it because they don't have the contacts or the ease of being able to pick up the phone and call one of the producers they've worked with, or one of the artists they've worked with, or one of the labels they've worked with, and just say, hey, I've got somebody, if you're interested, maybe, I got somebody you might want to hear. I thought of you when I heard the person, whatever. Like, there's ways of making that conversation happen where you're not just, calling them up and saying, you have to do me a favor and listen to this person.
Yeah.
You have to be a little more, nuanced than that.
Anybody who's hesitant to cut into their profits with something like this, like a manager, or in the case of the next one, a booking agent or PR, any of that, the incentive for them to do something for you in their roles ties into, you got to cut a little piece of yourself off for them in order for you not to have to do all of that.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to do it all, which it's kind of hard to have any time left for the artistic stuff if you're doing all of this stuff.
Not only with the when we're talking about the expenses coming out, or coming out before everything splits, there's also, what about reinvesting? Like, as far as the vision, as far as the management, as far as the band, what are the thoughts about the money that is coming in when it does start coming in? How much of it is going to be, okay, now we should start upgrading the instruments, or now we should start looking at a transport?
A good manager, the first thing they should be telling that artist is a chunk of these profits need to go back into reinvesting in order to grow. Everything he was talking about here was about being scalable, and how do you go from being this artist to being this artist, and you've got to grow it. These people that you're getting here, the purpose of them is to grow it. And I can see why Damien doesn't want to be a music manager, because his skill set, like he said, is all about business growing. I could see him being a music consultant to an artist with the manager and saying, like, this would be good material, this would be a good album, or this would be a good move to go play at this place. You get a guy like this with a good manager, and you've got everything you need to put together a business.
Yeah. And a lot of times it comes down to, is everybody in the band on the same page when it comes to scalability? Because so many times there'll be, 2 guys in the band or 3 people in the band, whatever, have an idea of what they would like to, see the band do. But, one person thinks, superstardom, they're going to be playing stadiums by next year. Somebody else thinks they're not even planning to get out of the garage for at least another couple of years. I mean, you've got to all kind of get on the same page. It's helpful there too.
Yeah. We had that night, the I'm with the band night, where we looked into, being in a band and finding people who are on the same channel, because nothing is more tragic than having like a great sounding band with people who are in it for totally different reasons. And one, we're never ready. We need to keep practicing, while the other's like, oh, but let's get in the studio. Who cares if we're ready? We'll get ready when we're in there. Yeah. You want to find the right partners, especially if you're going to get managed, because it's no longer one person that they're managing. It's the collective.
Yep.
It's the business, just like they're emphasizing. Awesome advice, Damien.
Thank you.
Fit perfect with what we're looking at tonight.
Yes, indeed.
And the booking agent, which is, after a lot of managers are also the booking agents, but it takes a certain kind of manager to be a good booking agent. A booking agent needs to be more aware of the musical surroundings that you have to work with, and they're the ones that really have to network and get to know, like, the venues, who's running them. This is a part where the manager may not always be the one with all the connections there.
Right.
The manager is the one who talks to the one with the connections to get in touch with the ones running the events.
Yeah. Different skill sets. But again, it depends on what you're looking for, like which person you need as your manager and which skill sets, which roles you need filled.
Yeah, and we came across Charlie's channel a couple months ago, and finding this one, what I liked about this was we're looking at this from a musician's perspective, not from the booking agent's perspective, because I think it's more interesting from the musician's perspective here. You're going to want to know what you're looking for in a booking agent, not just take people at their word that, oh, I'm a booking agent, I can get you gigs. You're going to want to see some proof, and you're not just going to want to throw yourself out there at any old event. You want to find the events that are going to fit with what you're doing.
Scalability, you want to resonate with the crowd, sure.
Yeah. If you're a country singer and you get thrown into a rap festival, it's not to say that it wouldn't work, but
you could play both kinds of music, country and western.
Yeah. So this one's coming from @Charles Klein, and he's going to talk about how to get a booking agent, a musician's perspective. This was back when he was just starting to get into it, and these were his considerations.
Nice.
Spoiler, I don't have a booking agent, and I know this video is how to get a booking agent. Hear me out. Okay, I'm a musician, full-time singer-songwriter, and I am trying to get a booking agent. And I've done a lot of research on how to get a booking agent. So I was gonna share the research that I've been doing, and maybe it will help you get a booking agent. Let's put this video to the test. I'm doing these things, and I hope within a year from now that I will get a booking agent. So I'll do a follow-up to this video in 1 year from now to see if it's paid off or not on how to get a booking agent. If this is the first video you're watching of me, punch the subscribe button. Don't break your screen though. My name is Charles Klein. I'm a singer-songwriter full-time. I'll leave a couple links to my music in the description below. If you're a musician yourself or a singer-songwriter, post your music in the comments. I'd love to check it out. Okay, how to get a booking agent. I've accumulated 5 things that I think booking agents are looking for, and I've talked to different agents and they've agreed that you really do need these 5 things in order to get a booking agent. Now, none of these are set in priority order. I would say all of them carry the same amount of priority significance. First thing would be to have an active portfolio. Portfolio meaning capturing everything you have that you put online. That's your Instagram account, your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your website, your YouTube account, anything, any photo you put online, all your channels, to have those active. If I'm a booking agent and I go on your Facebook profile, your Twitter account, your YouTube account, and you haven't posted in 3 or 4 months, it shows me right away that you aren't active and that you likely don't have an active fan base. Even if it's just like things happening in your day-to-day, as long as it's active, the booking agent really can't say anything against that because they go on your Instagram account, YouTube account, whatever. You've been posting regularly, they can see you're active and engaged. Number 2, have the best, the tightest, engaged show you've ever put on. A booking agent is going to help you get shows, and if you have a crappy show, then they're not going to book you, guaranteed. So have an amazing show, be super tight, well rehearsed, your banter is on point, the crowd is super engaged, people are coming up to you after being like, oh my god, that was an amazing show, where are you playing next? I'm coming to your next show. That's the kind of show you want to have. If you've only played 10 gigs in your life, you probably won't have that show. So how do you get there? Play a ton of gigs. Not only that, but after you play a gig, get someone in the audience to say like what you were bad at and how do you improve. What would you have liked to see? How could I have made that better? If you're not getting any feedback loops after the shows, then you're not going to get better faster. The third thing is having an engaged following and an active following. Just like how you're keeping your social accounts and YouTube accounts and all that active, you're going to want to have an engaged following. Booking agents are going to be looking at, okay, so are people going to their shows and are they engaged? Are they following this person? Are they talking about this person? What's the network effect to this artist, to this musician? Is there a market for this? Is there a market for this musician? If I'm going to book them a show, are people going to come out and really like it and tell their friends about it? And so if you don't have a bit of buzz around your following and your fans, then get one, because the booking agent is going to want to see that. Fourth thing, quality music. Obviously a no-brainer. If you write bad songs, no one's going to listen to your songs. No one's going to show up at your shows. Terrible snowball effect if you have bad songs. So write quality music. If you don't know how to write quality music, learn how. It is a learned skill that you can get better at songwriting and be a better songwriter. So collaborate with better songwriters than yourself. Learn how to write a structured, catchy song. Whatever genre you want to be in, go deep on that genre. Learn how to write the best song in that genre, and don't stop until you have the best song. Get a number of those songs, put them into a performance, and that you make it entertaining and engaged. You see where I'm going? Number 5, be professional and confident and not flaky. Booking agents aren't going to want to book you shows if you show up half in the bag, or you're not professional, or you like piss off the audience, or you're just not cool. Booking agents want to work with cool people who are professional and confident and they have their shit together. All that has network effects into growing your buzz. And so if you're not professional and you show up late and you're a bit of an asshole, then less likely you aren't going to get a booking agent. Mind you, a lot of people have done the 4 things that I've just mentioned and are not much of a cool person, still get a booking agent. That can totally happen. The longevity of a career when you're not a cool person is less likely. So number 5, and the last thing, is be cool and be confident and be professional. I'm putting all these 5 things into action. Let's see if they actually work. I will post another video in 1 year from now to see if it actually worked. I think there are probably a lot of other things, like you actually have to, reach out to these agents. Let me know what other things I'm missing in the comments, and let's have a debate about it. Also, if you're a musician, post your music in the comments. I'd like to see where you're coming from. If you did like this video and you want to see what happens in a year, punch the subscribe button and give this video.
Oh, Charles, you are cool. That booking agent doesn't have to work hard at all. But that does bring up a good point of if you aren't that professional, but you do have a good manager who is professional, you could be Guns N' Roses and such a pain in the ass band, but the manager takes all the slack for the boys when they don't show up on time, or oops, we broke some things in the hotel.
Yeah, but again, don't be that guy.
I try not to. But if I'm going to be, I'm going to get a good manager so my booking agent has an easier job.
Yeah. When you're going to start being the guy who's breaking stuff at the hotel, like be the guy who can at least pay for the stuff that you're going to break at the hotel comfortably and not worry about it, you know?
Well, that comes out of the band budget. So
Does it though? Because I mean, the other band members might be like, I'm not paying for you to kick another TV screen for no reason.
I heard of a couple of 70s and 80s bands who didn't end up making a penny in the end because
extravagant expenses.
the whole tour, the expenses were like destroyed. Motley Crue had a couple of years where they were spending as much as they were breaking.
Sure. And that's the thing is, you know, if you're bringing in enough to cover it, that's fine. But, you know, well, is it fine? But, you know, I guess it's fine, but you could also do like invest in some rage management and like not break stuff, like at least purposely. You know, things break. I get that, but you know, try not to break things. Maybe.
Yeah, boys will be boys.
Yes.
But you know what I was thinking as he was going through, you know, the tips. This is a role where you could have somebody in the band actually taking care of. You know, once in a while you'll find that band where there's that one person in the band that is connected, that does look at the gigs, and you know, sometimes you're doing that. You're looking where the open mics are. Like his advice about like perform as much as you can, so that way you can have that magical concert. You're aware of the open mics, the opportunities in your surroundings to play out, and if a band member is also the booking agent in this case, it's not a bad fit. There's incentive. One of the members is actually committed to doing it, and if they're good at doing it, it doesn't necessarily get in the way of the band.
Right.
If a person in the band is also the manager, that I'm not so sure about.
One thing I will say is that it's good to have somebody on the band's behalf who's not on stage when the band is performing, so that, you know, someone who, you know, it doesn't have to be the sound guy. It doesn't like somebody who's not connected to doing anything right now can be somebody who, you know, can go up and talk to the manager of the venue and say, you know, how is it right now? Is the volume okay? Do you need it louder? You know, whatever. You know, you can find out information that would otherwise not get to the band, and you can try to deliver that information and get the band to, you know, play louder, play softer, you know, be more animated, whatever they want to see different. You can, you know, get that information to the band. So it's good to have representation of some kind. It could, and again, that's where it could be, you know, the bandmate's girlfriend or whatever, but she shouldn't be over at the sound guy going like, he needs to be louder. He needs to be louder. Like, let the sound guy do his job.
and like his suggestion about like after the show, go out into the crowd and see if you can
interact,
get any negative feedback, any feedback at all. But whether you go out into the crowd or whether you ask that second ear, that booking agent that's there, or that your manager, having these outside influences that are part of the band will hopefully keep your performance in check.
Also, if you're going to ask for negative feedback, be prepared to accept negative feedback, you know, and be prepared to accept it in the constructive way that it's intended. Like if you ask them, hey, what would you like to see differently? They're like, oh, the guitar player was way too loud. Like, oh, that's, you know, it could be something about positioning. Like maybe he was sitting right in front of the guitar player's amp, or maybe it was too loud in the house. Who knows? But, you know, if somebody does have a suggestion for you, it's important to, you know, take it in the way it was meant, you know, take it as constructive feedback. And it's also demonstrating, if you're asking for negative comments, you're demonstrating that you're open to negative feedback, and that shows growth as a person, as far as you're willing to accept and grow as a person with this information you're being given.
Yeah, have thick skin.
Yes, that's important, because if you ask for, you know, what did we do wrong, and somebody says the guitar player's good, and they go, oh, but I play that way all the time. Be like, you don't want to get defensive if somebody, if you're asking for negative feedback.
And if they say like, you know, the amps were too loud on the guitars, they're hearing it from their perspective in the club. there's no reason to like take it super personal. Just take what you're hearing, and the next time you're there, keep it in mind as you're trying to adjust and get better.
You can even be positioning. I would go to Fish shows, and there's, sometimes you're over on the guitar side and sometimes you're over on the keyboard side, so it's all about what you're hearing more of, because you're hearing from their monitors. If you're close enough, if you're close enough to the stage, you're hearing from their monitors as well. So you're actually hearing a different experience than you would be hearing elsewhere. But there is a bubble, that we call it, like around the stage, where you could be walking all the way around the front of the stage and you're inside this bubble. If you walk 10 feet back and go all the way around the stage, you're hearing something completely different, because the way the speakers work, because of the way the distances work, because of the way the timing is. But a lot of times with a big concert like that, there's also a repetition of the sound further out from speakers that are out further, so that the timing works out, because they don't want to have the sound from the stage, take 4 seconds to get all the way to the back. It's, everything is out of sync by then. So they have it repeating from speakers that are closer to the back, so that you're seeing and hearing it more in sync.
Yeah, I've had crappy seats and really good seats at concerts, but overall, the sound is there no matter where you are.
Yep. And that's the main way that's why they design it that way. So yeah.
Yep. So that was at Charles Klein over on YouTube. And if you want to see how his journey went there and his follow-up, go check him out on YouTube. This is a musician's journey. He's got some great songs too.
Nice.
Might throw some of those at Ange.
Definitely.
So, we've looked at booking and managing the artist, but public relations is a whole different beast of representation. In some cases, they're the ones in charge when, like, Axl goes jumping off the stage and beating on one of the fans. And
I think we got to talk to legal on that one.
Well, and legal and public relations, they do. They kind of go hand in hand in a lot of cases. So there's a lot of different shoes that can fit this kind of role. And this is where sometimes you get away from one person handling the job. This is sometimes where you get a firm to the big artists. They're under like a whole agency of control.
Right. They have people for everything.
Yeah. And this is coming from at Master Music Marketing, which when we do our marketing night, coming back here, because another freshie that's like, awesome resource focused exactly on the music business. Learn to succeed in the music business. New videos weekly.
Nice.
These channels are my jam.
And you're finding them all. Yep.
Yeah. And again, when you're looking at the videos, like every one of them is something, a hobby or career. We're going to cover that one night, just the differences of being a musician one way or the other. So.
And if you took a poll of a band of 4 or 5 people, just a flashcard poll, hold up a card. Are you in it for the hobby or career? You'd probably have different answers. And that's where you get into that whole problem again.
You'd probably have different answers from the same people, depending on when you ask them.
Yeah. And what scale that we're talking about, because having a career in music, if you're just, doing some gigs here and there and working on, songs throughout the year or whatever, that's one thing. But if somebody's like, we're going to drop everything tomorrow and be on a plane for the next, 6 months of touring, I mean, that's an entirely different level of preparedness, right?
Well, and if you're just looking to get some performances out there and you want to get that energy out and get some jam time on stage, even just a booking agent would likely be enough to satisfy those needs. But what we're looking at overall, when you are getting these kinds of representation across the board, you are committing to your career, and you might be jumping on a plane tomorrow and taking a tour across the country.
Yeah. And a big part of what he was saying, or what we were listening to before about just, practice and repetition and doing gigs, just getting out there and doing it and going out and playing it's both about improving your playing, being more comfortable in front of multiple audiences, getting experience with different things that happen on stage. If you're playing and all of a sudden there's a crash of a tray in the back of the room, are you going to stop playing it, or are you going to keep playing right on through? I mean, you're supposed to motor right on through, so be accustomed to being distracted, but or be aware, sometimes somebody's going to call out, it's so-and-so's birthday, be ready to play a song, all that kind of things. It's important to be able to react and, go with what the crowd wants. If everybody's dancing, go for another dance song. If nobody's coming up to the dance floor, maybe go with some of the slower stuff because people are paying, more attention to whatever. Different ways of modifying what you're doing.
Yeah, and when it comes to public relations and what we're going to look at here, it's not just about when you mess up and they make you look good and they try to spin things. It's also about like social media marketing and like, hey, this artist is going to be playing next month at this show. Let's make sure that we get some press releases out there and get people informed. PR kind of handles both the marketing side and the branding side in a presentable way so that you look the best you can as an artist.
Yeah, I've seen some where they live stream the first couple songs of a gig so that they're trying to get people to come on down, because you can send them. They have the fans already have the website, so they can go to the website and just check out live stream of what's happening at the bar. They already see that, hey, the bar's already getting packed. Let's get down there, so they want to get down there, and it helps to bring the crowd in.
And people really do like seeing good live footage. Musicians who get some good live footage out there into their social media go a lot further. The music videos and all that, we looked at that last week. They're great compliments to a song and things like that, but seeing an artist perform is still, I think, one of the most powerful ways to attract fans.
Yeah. And that's also where it's good to get good footage. It's cameras nowadays get amazing footage and it sounds great as long as you're not playing it out through the phone speaker.
Yeah.
Get the footage. Have it in. Have it on a website and actually play it through good speakers. And then
get the best that you can.
Right.
So here, Master Music Marketing is going to explain what is music PR. And also finding a good publicist, because they're intermingled with this. Like I said, some of it's all about promoting social media and things, and the publicist side of it is where that job comes in.
Yep.
In this video, we're talking about PR and what it means as a musician. What does a publicist do? How do you know you got a good one? Who's a scammer? What's up, guys? Brandon here from KDMR Music, the channel making you a more successful musician. Now, just in case you're new around here, we do videos every week. I talk about music marketing. I give you music education and strategies that you can use to build your fan base, make more money, and ultimately have a successful career, because that's what everybody wants, right? Now, today we're talking about PR because I get a lot of questions about what PR is, how it works, and how to find a good publicist. So we're going to break down, again, what a publicist is, what they do, and how you know you've got a good one. So PR, if you're not sure what it means, it stands for public relations. PR is the portion of your marketing that involves reaching out to news outlets. Those can be blogs, those can be actual TV stations, radio stations, writers at newspapers, basically the media, people that we call the media. So if you want to be featured on Complex, well, you're likely going to have to hire a publicist or a PR person to help you do that. Now, when we're talking about publicists, because the person who is going to be helping you get this media coverage is your publicist, let's talk about what a publicist actually does. Well, a publicist is a person whose job it is to help you craft your story and help you communicate it to the public through various forms of media. Now, again, it's important that I highlight this because a PR person, a publicist, is a communications professional. So they help you craft your story. They're not just sending out press releases, but they're crafting the press release and helping you understand how your actions fit into your overall story as an artist. And they're helping media outlets understand the same thing. So a publicist's job is to help you create that story, and it's their job to pitch that story to as many outlets as they can find where your story will resonate. So, most people know that a publicist is who helps them get on blogs or on TV or in other media outlets, but most people don't know that they help craft that communication as well. So, let's talk about two things that publicists are great at. Now, we already hinted at the first one, where publicists are great at communication. Have you ever heard about media training, where somebody is in an interview and they're asked a really juicy or salacious question and they kind of avoid answering it directly? And somebody goes, "Oh man, you must be media trained," right? Media training is something that a publicist does for you. They help you understand how to speak correctly, how to measure your responses, and what things you can say and what you probably should not say. And that's because publicists are masters at communication. They are masters at telling you what words to use, what words will elicit a certain response from any particular group of people. And they're great at crafting a story that resonates with their intended audience, right? So, for example, if they're trying to get you covered by, I don't know, TMZ, right? TMZ is more of a tabloid type publicist or a publishing outlet. So TMZ is looking for the juicy stories, right? People like the Shade Room and things like that. They're looking for scandal. They're looking for intrigue. They're looking for something that is going to shock, right? And that's why TMZ has a reputation for being the first to report celebrity deaths, because it's the type of information that is really shocking and that it's going to garner a lot of attention quickly, right? So if you want to do a profile about how you created your album in a cabin in the woods in the middle of winter with no electricity, TMZ is probably not the outlet for you, right? And publicists are great at knowing what story goes where. Now, right alongside that, a publicist is great at relationship building, right? A publicist should always be reaching out on your behalf, or not necessarily on your behalf, but they're reaching out. They're always making new friends. They're always making new contacts in all of these different media outlets, right? A publicist should have a really large Rolodex or address book, a long list of people in different markets, in different forms of media, who write or cover different artists, right? Whether that's, your publicist may specialize in a certain genre. So if you've got a publicist, then maybe they'll specialize in hip hop if you're a hip hop artist, and they know all the hip hop news media, right? But a publicist is great at building and maintaining really good business relationships. And if your publicist is not good at that, then you should probably steer clear. Now, what a publicist is going to do for you, they will charge you on a per campaign or for even just a monthly retainer fee. And what they're going to do is they're going to help you craft your story, and they're going to spread it to as many outlets as possible. So most commonly, you have some sort of an announcement you want to make. They will craft a news release and they will send it to as many outlets as possible that are actually relevant to what you do and to what your announcement is. So if your album's coming out and you're going to be in New York, well, they will send a list to, or a press release to everyone that they know who is a part of the news media in New York, and say, hey, Wale is going to be in New York promoting his brand new album, Wale number 7, right? And he's going to be in New York from this date to this date. If you have any questions, press inquiries, contact me at this, right? And so what happens is the journalists who are interested in covering Wale will reach out to them. And now your publicist is also in charge of managing your schedule for press, right? So they're going to be booking those interviews. So they're going to be in constant communication with you to say, hey, you've got an interview at 10 o'clock with Complex Magazine. You've got an interview on BET at noon. You've got to be at this place. This is where you're going to meet. This is what kind of car they're going to pick you up in. Your publicist is handling all of that information. And in exchange, you pay them, like I said, either a monthly fee or a fee for the campaign. It's important to know that a publicist cannot guarantee you coverage. They can't say, oh, you're going to be on Complex, because I know people at Complex. If they try to guarantee you coverage, it's usually a good sign that you need to steer clear of them. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, right? So, a good publicist has a huge contact list and is good at relationship building. Now, things that you need to watch out for, and I said this already, people who are charging you per post, right? So if you see somebody on your Facebook feed or on your Twitter that's like, hey, I can get you in 5 magazines for $500. They can't get you in 5 magazines. And if they do, it's not going to be meaningful. You might get a back page mention. You might get, some sort of ad in that platform. Or even the worst are, oh, I can get you on thisis50.com. And what happens is these blogs will just copy and paste your press release and put it on their website. And you're not getting any meaningful traffic from it, right? Those are the people that will charge you in advance for a post. So steer clear of them. Another thing you want to watch out for are bad reviews. If someone has used a publicist, or if a publicist is reputable, they should be able to give you a list of contacts, a list of people that they've worked with in the past. So reach out to those people. Use your network and use that network to ask for references, ask for recommendations, ask about people's experiences. And if people have bad reviews, don't pay them to perform a service for you. That seems self-explanatory, but I know it's not, so I said it. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you understand more about how PR works and how to choose the right publicist for your campaign, your single, or your album rollout. If you have questions about what PR is, if you have nightmare horror stories, I want to hear about them in the comments of this video. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment letting me know how much you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified about the next video when I post it. Until then, be safe, be well, keep dreaming, work hard, and make those music business dreams your reality. Peace.
Oh, he said it. He said it. Don't go chasing publicists with bad reviews.
Yep.
That's just silly.
Don't do that.
And you should do your homework if you're going to go for something like this. This is where networking really does start to become more important. The skill that you want out of a publicist or a PR firm, they are the networkers. You mix this with a good booking agent, and that booking agent's job is a piece of cake if the publicist has got the Rolodex.
But again, going back to another video, be manageable. Be giving them a product that they can actually monetize. Like give them that show, give them that personality, give them a show, entertainment.
And when it comes to the PR side of things, and they're writing reviews or news stories, articles, you don't want to be that artist. I know some think, ooh, like going to jail and being caught in a trial, notoriety is still good publicity. Not so much anymore. There was a time where, it did seem like some artists were just getting famous for being infamous, but that's not the norm.
Yeah. And again, back then it was a little different where, the whole, any news is good news as far as, or any exposure, any press is good press because it's getting the name out there, where now everything gets out there anyway. So good or bad. So better to put good out there and, not have the bad stuff on
your PR agency doesn't want to be having to go scan the internet to scrape like
damage control.
Yeah. So you got to do your part to make their job easier. And if you give them good image to present with, their job gets easy.
Yep.
Interesting with this, from what I'm hearing, like Kevin says, you know, you can pay them per month. Usually you get them like 6 months at a time, or like he mentioned, per project. This isn't like some of the other agents where they're getting a cut in things. This is more like, it's like hiring an attorney. You're setting aside money for somebody to take care of this kind of service for you.
Yep. And you might say the same for your web design. You know, maybe you have somebody in the band who's doing your web page and uploading content and all that, or maybe you want to hand that off and have somebody who actually designs the page and actually, you know, keeps it current and keeps, you know, posting photos and video. And
in the case of a big artist, the PR would be the one checking the branding on the web to make sure everything. So the web designers would be presenting to the PR like, hey, this is what we're going to put up, and they get the okay, and now it's okay to put it up there. It doesn't make the artist look bad.
Yep. And it's, again, you know, activity is important. You know, keeping it current, keeping it active, engagement is important.
Just like the booking video had said, you know, your online portfolio and your presentation, if you're not, and it's funny because I keep telling artists not to oversaturate themselves, not to, don't feel like you got to make a new song every day.
Right.
But to the point of, like, you got to show activity and consistency. You don't have to do a song every day, but you should definitely be showing constant growth, constant production of material, so that way these people that you may hire or may come to you see that you're a good investment.
Yep. Exactly, because again, it is a team after all.
Yep. That was great advice on PR, and what it actually is. Master Music Marketing at Master Music Marketing, new videos every week. So you can get your marketing jam on weekly.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Now, for this one, I wanted to see the perspective from both sides here. And Marianne Violin, she's been in both sides of this fence. She's tried to do it all herself. She's worked with agencies, and she's kind of come to her own conclusions on what she's going to do, or what might depend on an agency to take care of for you. And when it comes to agencies, this is where sometimes you'll get all these different managers in one shot, and it can be good when you've got that kind of talent all under one umbrella. A well-oiled agency will have a top-notch booking and a top-notch manager and all the different parts that you're going to need if you get the right agency. And that's some of what she's going to talk about in her experiences.
All right.
So this is at Marianne Violin. Love the name, and I love the violin.
Yeah.
Performing and recording electric violinist. So you know I'm coming back for the music later.
Definitely.
But interesting to see, you know, a violinist really taking control of her career the way she is.
All right.
So this is going to be music agencies versus finding clients on your own. Which should you choose?
Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something that can really shape your music career. Two choices, either to go with the agencies or to choose your solo path and choose your clients on your own. I've been navigating this space for a while now, so I decided that it's going to be nice to share my experience and my life choices as well with you. Let's get into it. Alright, let's start with the music agencies. When I first considered working with the agencies around 10 years ago, back in Ukraine, back in my country, the idea was pretty much nice. It felt amazing for me, especially considering the fact that I was in the very beginning of my solo career. I was always sure that the agency can help me out a lot because they have their own database, they have their own clients, they have access to the venues, which for sure I didn't have access back in the days in the beginning. One of the biggest benefits working with the agency is that they do the heavy lifting, finding the work for you, at least when it comes to professional agencies. So what it actually means is that you don't need to spend hours looking for the clients, looking for the venues. The agency will do it for you. And that can save you a lot of time because you can spend it for rehearsing, looking for new songs, or just creating the content. Another major advantage is the network. Agencies often have long-standing relationships with venues, event planners, and companies. And that means you can get the opportunity to perform for high-end venues, corporate gigs that you might not even know existed without their help. But it's not all that simple, because agencies usually take percentage from the gigs from 10 until around 50%. And this is something I want you to really think about, because while you're saving time, of course you're saving time, it's amazing, especially in the beginning, but at the same time you're giving part of your income to someone else just because they have their own contacts. And this is something that you might want to change after a while. Plus, not all of the agencies are really having your best interest in mind. This is why it's really important to choose the agency which is trustworthy and understands your style and your career goals. Moreover, sometimes there are agencies who just hire the musician on the basic salary and use them for multiple gigs per day, and in the end they're not paying them accordingly. And this thing, it can really exhaust you pretty much quickly. Plus, these kind of agencies sometimes require you to never post anything on social media, never speak to any kind of people, and God forbid to speak to the client. And sometimes you're not even allowed to go out to other venues or have a social life. So these are greedy people that you definitely want to avoid. Now let's talk about finding clients on your own. This route is very rewarding, but it doesn't come easy, because when you're working alone, everything falls on your shoulders. You have to market yourself, you need to do the social medias, you need to talk to people, go out to the venues to just get your name out there. And of course, this is incredibly exciting, but at the same time it's overwhelming. The biggest benefit of working solo is of course that you're keeping 100% of your salary for yourself. So it means that you have more money, but also it means that you have more responsibility. One of the most important things that I learned is that networking is everything. It means that you need to get out there, meet people, go to the venues, and create relationships with potential clients. As an introvert, social medias were a huge help for me. These kind of websites like Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, they help me to showcase my skills just from home, from the internet, and attract clients who resonate with my style. And it's also a great tool for attracting the clients or businesses who need musicians for corporate events. But even with the power of social media, going solo means that you're always looking for new opportunities. So the most important thing here is consistency. You have to continuously put yourself out there, you have to continuously post your photos, your videos, and apart from that, you also need to attend the events. This is why it takes time and lots of persistence. As I told in the previous video, you need to have everything organized. You need to know your prices, you need to know your limits, you need to always be polite, you need to know how to find the way to the client and how to make yourself approachable and friendly and easygoing. So if you want to know more about this topic, you can go to the previous video. I think I will keep the link here somewhere. But the most important thing here is just to stop being lazy and start doing your thing, and it will be a success. In the end, the choice between the agency and going solo depends on where you are in your career right now. Because the agency can be a good kickstart for you in the very beginning, but after a while, and I'm not the only one who is saying that, there's lots of musicians who are starting with the agencies, but then they want to have more control. So if you start feeling that you want more control over your time, over your money, over the clients that you're interacting with, then you should start thinking about going solo and making your relationships with clients more closer and just make your database of their contacts. But if you're still in the very beginning and you want to understand the market much better and you want to spend more time just to maybe know which kind of music works out there, especially if you're not in your city, in your native city, and you're somewhere abroad and you don't know what people actually like in the beginning, it's really good place to start with the agent, because agent will tell you all the details. Most probably he's gonna have specific requests for music, and what you're gonna need to do is just to take the songs that people are requested from you and you just learn them. After a while, when you're performing more and more on the events, you will start understanding which works better for this community and which doesn't work for this community at all. For example, when I came to work on my first contract here in UAE, my type of music was absolutely not acceptable for this place, because what I came with was pop music, there was some classical music and also rock music. Here I ended up with house music and different kinds of deep house remixes and Afro house music and pop music, but in totally different approach. And I also had to learn how to play a bit of Arabic style or a bit of Turkish style, because this country, it's more international, but also it has some kind of Arabic influence and Arabic vibe here. What I mean here is that you need to learn which kind of music will be acceptable for the venue, for the place, for the country, or for just a family dinner if you're playing in some kind of small events. And this knowledge only comes with practice, and if you don't want to get in the situation when you came unprepared with the music which doesn't fit the situation, then it's a very good thing to have an agent who will prepare everything for you. You will just go, play, take your money and continue working. And even if you're already working solo, it never hurts to work with the agents time to time. But in this case scenario, you will have your own fees and the agent will have the job offer for you. Then you will discuss the appropriate terms for both of us. He will take his commission, you will have your appropriate amount of money, and still the client will be happy. So the agent here will just be as a middleman who is making contact between you and the client. Everyone will be happy in this situation, and still it's not gonna be like a slavery just for the agency who hired you for a full term. So this is a win-win. Even if you're a solo artist, even if you're going freelance already, agents are not a bad thing for you, and agents can still be a very good benefit for you in your career. Just choose your agents properly, choose the agencies properly, and don't be scared to ask the questions, and don't be scared to read the contracts and ask to change it if there is something that you don't like. Because people nowadays, unfortunately, they're really tricky and no one loses a chance just to try and fool you. Unfortunately, it is like this, so you have to stand for yourself. As I told before, know your limits, know your prices, know the things that you will never do, and know the things that are negotiable in different kinds of situations. And that's it for today. I hope this video was useful for you and it helped maybe figure out which path you want to take for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and follow. If you maybe have some interesting story you want to share with us, maybe you have some interesting experience in your music career, don't be shy, put it in the comments, we will discuss it. And thanks for watching. See you next video. Bye.
No, I'm not shy.
Nope. No.
I pounded that like button.
There you go. Good job.
Well, what I liked about that is, you know, her evolution from when she started out, and she did start with the agencies. You know, this is a nice fair balance from both sides. She's not overly criticizing the agencies, but at the same time, she grew out of them as she got more experience. She got the Rolodex started to fill up for her. She started to realize what she could do on her own versus through the agency, because as you saw what she mentioned, things can get kind of rigid when you're under an agency, when they're like, you can't post anything unless it goes through us and gets approved. We've dealt with artists in those situations where they can't even talk about their album or what they're currently working on because their agencies don't allow them.
Yeah, and again, for some people it wouldn't be a big deal because some people don't post anyway. But you know, that's if you're trying to get something out there, you should have a page for the band, and yes, there should absolutely be social media presence.
Well, and I'm a firm believer that even if the PR social media presence, which is great, they should be doing it super polished, professional. It is nice to get the actual artists' social media pages once in a while, and fans connect directly that way. I know it's a little trickier for PR to deal with, but assuming you got a responsible artist who's not checking before they hit enter and post, a good responsible artist isn't a lot of work.
Yeah. And again, it depends what you're trying to post. And in a lot of cases, it's, it comes down to the same basic rules of a dinner party. Certain conversations or certain topics you should stay away from. Just to, to not become, radioactive, because you could make your profile radioactive by posting certain things that you feel strongly about. But, again, sometimes it is better to keep your opinions to yourself in certain things.
Yeah. PR would be like, don't post anything that's going to make you lose fans.
Yep. And that's very easy to do. I mean, as much as you think everybody's on board if I say this or I say that, there's, you are definitely saying something, if you start espousing a lot of opinions like that, you can lose people.
And it's not just opinions. Like what she mentioned about like knowing the venue and what kind of material.
Kind of music, right.
There have been times where artists are doing something that's out of their genre.
Sure.
Jason showed me, I think it was Katy Perry did a like punk album back in the 90s, and her management basically said, no, you can't put your name in this because it conflicts with the image we're currently building. So they didn't actually take her tracks out. They just didn't mention the fact back then that she was on this album,
right?
And had been part of the writing on it.
Yeah, and that's where sometimes some people would go with a ghost writing at that point, or a pseudonym, or what have you, stage name, just to not have to worry about problems of that nature. But
yeah, that's a good example there, because in the book world, that's why was it Stephen King was like 3 other writers at one point during the 80s, just because these weren't the horror novels. So let's not confuse our fans with too much diversity in your creativity.
Sure. And part of that can come you could have something that is a very good product in a different style than what you usually do. And the people who are your fans who are expecting the horror stuff, then they're all, disappointed, and you get a lot of negative feedback from those fans.
Yeah.
You might lose a lot of those fans, even though this work wasn't really for them. And that is where it would be good to split that.
And that's where the pseudonym helps to kind of make separate baskets for separate fans. And, in the music world, it can be like that too.
Sure.
Especially if you're going from pop to classical, like she's an electric violinist. There's a lot of different genres that you can do in that.
Yeah, and switching to Arabic style, that's a whole different musical scale at that point. So that is, you got 24 notes to deal with, not 12. So you have a lot more going on.
Yeah, I can't wait to go check some of her music out.
But that is where a violin or a fretless instrument is one of those places where you can explore a lot of that stuff without having to worry about getting a whole new or adjusting to a whole new instrument like a sitar, for example.
Yeah. Well, I felt she gave a fair, balanced assessment of both sides there. There's no right or wrong. It's just life experience that she's had with it.
Sure. Yeah. Appreciate the sharing.
Marianne, very good. So, she had mentioned the trust word again. We've heard it throughout the different representation. And when you feel like you do trust enough to sign on the dotted line, because that's kind of what the big artist will eventually face, record deal. What are you getting into? How long are you getting into it? And what alternative options, especially nowadays, like distribution, is an alternative approach. You're seeing more artists shifting towards this, but again, pitfalls on both sides, and couldn't ask for a better resource to explain it. I would have loved to have gotten her Spotify counter in here, but this one I felt was important to sum up. We've got all these managers now gonna sign this contract, this commitment, possibly with an agency and with a record company. What are you really signing into? How long? If you're committed for so long, you don't have the options that Marianne had to drop the agency and say, I'm going to start doing this myself.
Right. Because I mean, some agencies, they, saw people do that and, decided, hey, we should put something into our contract that says, it's a non-compete clause or something where, you must, not do certain things on your own for a certain period of time after leaving the agency contract or whatever.
Yeah, and breach of contract is no joke in this industry. So
read everything carefully. Yes.
Yeah, at Top Music Attorney, she's going to emphasize that fact that you got to respect the contract. That's why you kind of need to do this homework before you do the signing and understand where your options lie here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, important.
So we're not. This is not a new channel. This is one. Go every day. Go every day. Check and see what's going on, because if you care about that Spotify or SoundCloud AI situation, what's going on in the legal world when it comes to copyrights with music, it's changing constantly, and this is the place to know as it's changing
Constantly and faster all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, she's giving so much good free advice. Obviously, when you get to these agents and you get to this level, go hire her as far as for the legal consultation, because all of these positions we looked at, all this representation, this is where the rubber does hit the road on legal information.
Get legal on the phone. Yep.
Yeah. Know whether your agent is ripping you off.
It's important.
So here, Miss Crystal's going to talk about the dark side of record label deals versus distribution deals. And the dark side kind of gives you a hint here.
Yep.
It's from her music business podcast.
All right.
The dark side of record label agreements versus distribution agreements. What you need to know and what you need to avoid. As an entertainment attorney of over 9 years now, I have negotiated thousands of agreements, a lot of which had to do with distribution and or record label representation, exclusivity, all the things. So to my musicpreneurs who are watching this and are trying to understand what's happening, I'm going to help you through this process. So make sure you like this video, share it with someone so you can help us to broaden our, audience and to connect and help more people. That's the purpose of this channel. So when it comes to understanding the difference between the distribution deal and the record label deal, let's talk about what the promise is. All right. So if you're working with a distributor, let's talk on the DIY side. A distributor that you probably are aware of might be DistroKid, CD Baby, Symphonic. There's a long list. Those are ones that I've even personally worked with. But these are DIY because you can distribute your own music and you don't have to get any special deal. Everyone can sign up to be on these platforms. Okay. So when we say a distribution deal, that's essentially what it is. Now, when you're talking about the promise of a distributor to distribute your music and the promise of a record label that you're signing with, really the difference is that a record label is saying they're going to get you a distribution deal. I know your minds are going to explode from this. All record labels actually promise to do is just to get you a distribution deal. They're not actually promising to make you a big star. They're not actually promising to get you tours or sponsorship deals or anything really fancy, quite frankly. But they're saying that they're going to get you a great distribution deal. And sometimes it's with a higher upper crust kind of distributor like In Grooves, Orchard, right? So these are companies that also do distribution, but not everyone gets to join. When you're working with a distributor who can do some kind of premium services for you, That's awesome. And what we're talking about is that a distributor can sit down, look at your project, sign you, and they're going to actively work your social media platforms, your music platforms to get you fans, to get you streams, to get you followers. So in essence, though, what we're talking about is that the distributor and the record label are actually making the same promise. Good to know, right? So then number 2, let's talk about the difference when it comes to the actual contract. And with record labels put what are called options into the record label agreement. The option is for the record label to be able to extend the contract. And the way they sell this to you is just to say, well, if things are going great, we want to keep helping you. Right? We're going to keep helping you. We want to extend the contract. So they dolly it up so it looks like it's this thing that's beneficial for you. But the reality is that it's the way that the label protects its investment to make sure that you don't get to go anywhere else. You have to stay with them and they can exercise the option. You can't say anything about it. So that's the record label's position. Now, if we look at the distributor, in the distribution agreement, what they have are called automatic extensions. And the difference between this is that in the record label case, if it's an option, the label is the only party, the only side to the contract who can actually exercise it. But if it's an automatic extension, what happens is that if no one terminates at the end of the agreement period, which might be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But if no one terminates, then the contract just automatically extends. And that is a massive difference for you if you are the artist, if you are the band. So again, keep that in mind when we're talking about like how this gets really hairy and complicated and frustrating when you are looking at whether you want to take a distribution deal or a record label deal. All right. Number 3, then we're talking about ownership. That's one of the biggest pieces here. If you're going to sign with a record label, the label is going to own your music for a very small percentage of the record label world. There might be a few labels that will have co-ownership in the deal so that they share the ownership with you. That's all magical. They might even allow you to keep ownership. I can't imagine. That's so unbelievably rare. So in most instances, the label is going to take ownership of the music regardless of what happens. So understand that, although it is a gamble for a record label to sign you because they're putting time and money into your project and you might flop, you might suck, but you also might be amazing. Either way, though, the label's going to have ownership of your music. So we're going to keep that in mind. On the flip side, if it's a distribution company, then they're not taking ownership. Distributors will only have a limited right to represent the music for however long you say they can via the contract. So what this means is that if you were coming to me, I'm the distributor, and I say, awesome, love your stuff, I'm going to distribute you, I'm going to promote you, we're going to be great working partners, and I'll be able to represent your music for the next 5 years. I might even give you like a signing bonus. The label might give you a signing bonus too, but that is a massive difference because the record label owns your music. The distributor does not. The distributor has a license to represent it. Now, of course, the license is going to be exclusive. You can't go anywhere else. You're stuck with the distributor until the end of the agreement, all those things. But that really is a huge difference because your music is valuable. Even if it's not technically very valuable now, meaning that, if you do a valuation and you're like, well, this is how much my stuff is making, via streams and digital downloads. In the future, your music becomes very valuable. I mean, guys, have you seen these catalog sales for, mid-tier independent artists? When you have an audience, your music becomes valuable. And when you have been around for a while, your music becomes like a legacy thing. So at some point, your music catalog can be sold, and whoever owns it gets that big payout. So that's number 3. Number 4, let's talk about negotiation. So, I sat down yesterday at my office with, new client, great team, sitting there with the artist, like looking at the vision and talking about where are we going and what are we going to do and how are we going to, make money and get popularity and all the things, right? Well, one of the things is that if part of your strategy is that you actually do want to get a record deal, love it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to villainize working with a label. All I'm doing is just saying I really need you to understand the difference so that you can negotiate well. And you can negotiate well if you know to kind of hold off until it's the right time. It's the right time to partner up with a company like a record label when you have negotiating power because you have fans who like your music and follow you and buy your stuff. That's pretty much it. If you don't have this stuff going on, You have zero negotiation power. Now, if you are talking to, let's say, a distributor, guess what? The exact same thing applies. I had lunch the other day with one of the biggest distributors in the United States and just kind of chatting about what their deals look like and how they sign and what they're looking for. And it's the same kind of thing. They're looking at what are your streams? What's your fan base like? What's the projection of where your career is going? So, it's essentially just a game, a money game, a business strategy that they're looking at. So if you understand that and you come to play and you set yourself up for success, guess what? Now you have negotiation and now you can get the best version of either deal. Whether you are trying to sign with a record label, understanding they're going to own the music, or if you're going to sign with a distributor, understanding that they're going to have exclusivity, they're going to represent you for however long, and that's important. Even if they're not going to own the music, obviously things could go sideways and you can't go anywhere because you signed a contract. Okay. So don't, sacrifice your freedom in either case and be signing contracts. And then please, please, please get an entertainment attorney to take a look at your contracts. Like I'm telling you, it's when it comes to like hiring an attorney, it's scary. I get it. It's frustrating because you're looking on Google and you can't find someone and then everyone's pages are so generic. It's very overwhelming, but I promise the work that basically goes into like just hiring a professional for your thing, which at this point is reviewing your contracts and having an advocate by your side who can mentor you through this process, is going to make the world of difference from your stress levels to just like you getting the absolute best deal, which means the most amount of money and the most protection for you. So please get someone to help you. Okay. I hope you guys find this helpful. There's a huge difference between these deals. And if you are looking at either one of these deals right now, that's great. But guess what? There's going to be more deals that come along. So kind of going back to the point on like, are you even ready to sign? And that would be the conversation I was having with you if we had a consultation and I looked at your contract. Be like, what's the goal here? What do you want? What are your deal breakers? And this is what your contract says.
Oh, hammer on, Miss Crystal.
Where's my gavel?
I want a gavel too.
Very good.
I'm usually reluctant when it comes to getting lawyers for anything, but have you ever seen someone so convincing of, like, if she sold insurance, I'd buy like every type of insurance because it's so convincing of why you need somebody to really assess every line of that contract. It's the second ear, it's the second eyes, the one who says, what does this mean?
And a set of eyes that that speaks legalese as well. So that's important.
Yeah, they're the ones that want to know what does that mean, and for 5 years, and the time commitment, the actual legalese that's trying to hide what they really mean with something that sounds compelling, but
the automatic extensions was important that you mentioned too. Yeah.
Well, in song ownership, her point about catalogs. Bruce Springsteen sold his catalog for $500 million. Do you think Bruce got $500 million? No, the record company owned it and sold it.
I don't think he's flipping burgers right now though either. So
no,
I think he's doing okay.
Oh, and he's still pretty buff, man. Last time I saw him, he looked like Hulk Hogan.
There you go. Putting the time in, putting in the work.
Yeah, but that point on catalogs was a really good one when it comes to ownership. And if you do go the label route, what you own is very different than the distribution route. And if that's important to you, if maintaining ownership of your songs is important, you don't want a record contract. That's why she would ask you, do you really want this? Are you ready for this?
And that's the thing, is kind of kind of walking down the road of, if it's a record contract or a distribution thing, like walk down that road a couple of years. If it is a 5-year contract you're talking about, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And a lot of people have difficulty with that question in general. But when you're talking about something like in, you're expecting to blow up in a year or 3 years or 5 years makes a big difference as to, you know, how that trajectory goes.
And a lot of the labels, they go into these things cautiously too. Like they'll feel out an artist with like a 1 record contract or maybe a 3-year, like we're gonna get you started here, and by year 3 we're gonna get you here. How the record labels look at that, unless you are the superstar, can't be ignored, you light up the room, they're not likely to say 3 to 5 years or multiple albums, because they don't know what they're going to be getting into either. So
you have to give them some proof, you know. Yeah, that's where that first album can make all the difference, you know, like if you do get the contract.
That's why she mentioned options and extensions and the differences between those two choices, and why the studio will maintain options if they can, and the distribution will extend as long as you don't stop it.
Yep. Always good information.
That's important stuff. If you ever plan on making any money with your songs, if it's not just a hobby and you really do want to make any money, all of these are food for thought of when you actually grow as an artist.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, we bring it to you every Thursday, and, you know, she's putting things up. Like you said, you check every day, you know, checking all the time is important.
I have to check that one every day because, you know, it's not a slow news day in the music world. The legal music world, every day is something new.
Yeah. And it is an interesting intersection between, you know, music and the law.
At Top Music Attorney, grow your music business. Live every Wednesday. Oh, damn. Ange whips it out usually then. But, is it Pacific? Want to check one of her live shows one night.
Yeah, for sure. But not on a Thursday.
No.
Because then we're here.
we actually check it out here.
Yeah. Oh, you're still over there, though. There it is. Then what do we got going on tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I think Ange is going to be actually flashing back on some of the tracks we missed from Wednesday. So there's some music to be heard.
Some listening party happening. Very cool. And of course, next Thursday we'll be back here
at 9.
At 9.
Talkin Shhh.
Shh. Shh. I.T.
There's 3. Ange made it a rule.
She did. There's always got to be 3.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin Shhh I.T. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much RAM. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking Shhh. We're talking